Welcome back, everybody. This is episode 4 of the case files of Letecia Stauch document read through. Let's get right into it. So where we last left off with episode 3 was the text message exchange between Detective Bethel and Letecia that took place between 3 and 4 a.m. And during that exchange, we saw Letecia's paranoia starting to occur, and Letecia was reaching out and expressing that she needed to talk to Detective Bethel, and there was really something that she needed to tell her. And it's in these exchanges that she first starts to introduce that something other than Gannon being a runaway really took place. And so the next set of documents that we're going to really look at are going to be a continuation off of those last text messages into the interview that took place that next morning. At approximately 10:26 a.m., Letecia began text messaging me. The messages occurred from 10:26 until 11:58 a.m. And again, the interview was scheduled to begin at 10 a.m. So the following are text messages between Letecia and myself. Letecia will be indicated with the letter L, and I will be indicated with the letter B. At 10:26 a.m., Letecia sends the text, "I'm on the way." Bethel says, "Okay." 10:27, Letecia says, "Here shortly, sorry. Had to handle some things because my family is getting harassed and threatened, and my daughter's safety is now in danger. She is getting threatened online and my family." Bethel says, "Okay, we need to talk about that. Where is she now? Are you okay? Just checking to see." Letecia says, "Resend address, please." "I found it." Bethel says, "Okay, how long until you're here?" Letecia says, 10.8 miles. Bethel says, "Okay, great." Then 20 minutes pass and she says, "Where are you? Would you like coffee or soda?" Letecia says, "Died." And then she corrects it with diet. Letecia says, "Parking, thank you." Bethel says, "Okay, where are you parked? Do we need to make sure a meter gets fed, or do I need to validate parking?" Letecia says, "I'm not sure. That's what I'm trying to figure out where to go." Bethel says, "You can park in the garage behind the building and I will validate it for you." Letecia says, "Okay." Then 16 minutes later, she says, "What's the name again?" Bethel responds, "Office of the Sheriff." Letecia says, "I'm here. They said you would be out shoring." Then she responds, "Shortly." Bethel says, "I'm sending my partner right now." So she arrives a whole 2 hours later than the agreed upon appointment time. So it says, Letecia was brought up to the investigations division by Detective Houston for her interview. The interview took place in interview room number 4. The recording of the interview was placed into evidence. I initiated a voluntary interview with Letecia with the assistance of Detective Houston. Letecia was provided with soda and something to eat. Prior to any questioning, I presented a Miranda waiver to Letecia and explained her rights. Letecia stated she understood her rights and agreed to speak with me. She completed the waiver, indicating she was willing to speak with Detective and I. I was present for a small portion of the interview with Letecia, but had to excuse myself for an appointment. I returned to the investigations division and saw Detective Houston was taking a break from the interview. Lieutenant Mitchell requested I go into the interview room to speak with Letecia. When I entered the room, Letecia was requesting to leave. I told her she could and asked her if she would tell me what happened prior to her leaving. Letecia refused and then said she needed a break. She mentioned driving herself to the hospital. I asked her if she was okay because I did not know of any reason she would need to go to the hospital. Letecia explained she needed to go to the hospital for DNA collection due to a sexual assault. She requested to leave the building again. I asked Letecia to wait to ensure Detective Houston did not have any other questions. Letecia asked if she was being held, and I told her no. She told me she would like to take a break and to possibly see her child or get lunch. I offered to get Letecia's daughter for her, and she asked Letecia to stay so I could follow up with her about her sexual assault. So this next document shows the story that Letecia is introducing during that interview regarding Eduardo. Eduardo is the mystery man that she alleges sexually assaults her and takes Gannon. So this is the point where everything shifts, and Gannon is no longer the runaway that she claims he was, versus a victim of a kidnapping and an abduction. And it's really fascinating to see how the wheels in her mind must be turning, because she senses that they're no longer believing and they're becoming suspicious of her. So she's jumping to the next set of lies. So let's get into it. At the beginning of her interview, Letecia related that she hadn't eaten and was hungry. I provided her a pepperoni pizza Hot Pocket, a bottle of water, and a Coke. During her interview, Letecia related that on Sunday, January 26, Gannon was downstairs in their basement and had lit a candle. She related that he knocked the candle over, causing it to spill and catch a piece of carpet on fire. She also related that Gannon wasn't feeling well due to a pre-existing stomach issue. Letecia said Gannon stayed home from school on Monday and her plan was to get the carpet fixed. Letecia said that she and Gannon left the house between 10 and 10:30 a.m. She said they went to the area in Lawson Ranch neighborhood where there was construction going on. She said she contacted a construction worker, Eduardo, who agreed to bring carpet to her house and replace the burned section. Letecia said she provided Eduardo with her garage access code and then went into town to do errands. Letecia said they returned to the house after 2 p.m. and Gannon entered the house before she did. She related that he went downstairs and she went and put her headphones on to listen to music and work out. She said she thought she heard something downstairs, so she went down. Letecia said she went down and there Eduardo was in the doorway of the storage area, which is adjacent to Gannon's room. She said he had a black handgun and attacked her. Letecia said she was raped by Eduardo, and during the incident, she hit her head. She said during the incident, Gannon jumped on Eduardo's back and was thrown off. Letecia said there was a Ring doorbell alert and she knew it would be Lena getting home from school on the bus. She said she went upstairs and told Lena to go get the mail and ride her bike to keep her out of harm's way since Eduardo was still there. She said she went back downstairs and Eduardo was holding onto Gannon and pointing the gun at him. She said he asked for a suitcase and a box. Letecia said she provided him with a brown suitcase and a cardboard moving box. She said she thought Eduardo was going to take their things and load it into the suitcase and box to make it look like he was going to the airport. Letecia said Eduardo then attacked her again and tried to sexually assault her again. She said her head was hit again and she kind of blacked out. She said when she finally came to, she couldn't find Gannon. She said she thought he might have been hiding in the house somewhere. Letecia said she cleaned up everything from the assault. When asked to describe the assault, Letecia said she didn't want to and asked if I could just ask her questions and she could say yes or no. During the interview, I asked Letecia if she had any injuries from the assault. She showed me a small mark on her left arm near her elbow that she said was a burn. She then looked at her arms and hands and said her hands had small scratches on them. At one point, she touched the back of her head and said it was sore. Letecia asked to take a bathroom break at approximately 1:26 p.m. and there was a break taken from 126 to 127. So our next document is actually a depiction of the investigator's observation of the interview with Letecia, and within it, they talk about how Letecia had not showered in 2 days at that point, which means she has not washed at all since the murder of Gannon, and she had done a lot in that last 48 hours. So she must have been very, very stinky. So let's take a look at it. The interview was already in progress as I entered the monitoring area. I did not watch the entirety of the interview as I was conducting supervisory duties and receiving a brief from DET Sergeant Rubble. I was aware detectives had been trying to get Letecia in for an interview to gather further information since January 28th. Letecia had been evasive, and it was difficult to get her to respond for an interview. Ultimately, Letecia came to the OTS on January 29th. I believe the difficulty in getting Letecia to come to the OTS seemed to be out of the ordinary for someone attempting to get help from police to find a runaway or missing person. During the interview, Letecia made statements which was directly contradictory to her original statements to deputies about what had occurred during the time frame Gannon went missing. She in fact stated that Gannon had not left to go to someone's house, but now indicated that he had been taken by someone who had sexually assaulted her. During the interview, she said she had not bathed in 2 days. Detective Houston explained to Letecia that she may still have potential evidence on her person. Detective Houston offered a forensic examination to be conducted at the hospital and explained the need to collect potential evidence of the assault. Letecia said at one point that she wanted to clean up prior to the examination. Detective Houston was preparing to conduct further interview and clarify and ask questions based on Letecia's statement. Letecia told Houston that she wanted to leave and go visit her daughter. She said she would come back to continue the interview at a later time. And last but not least for this episode, we have the documents regarding the seizure of Letecia's cell phone. And we all know Letecia ain't giving up her cell phone without a fight, so let's go through them. As Letecia had left the room and made it clear she wished to leave the building, I introduced myself and informed her that investigators were simply looking to gather as much information as possible to find Gannon. She made it clear she did not wish to continue the interview and said she would be willing to come back at another time. I knew detectives had a very difficult time getting Stauch to come to the office of the sheriff for interview. The previous night, her husband Al attempted to get Stauch to respond to the OTS, but was unsuccessful. Attempts by Detective Bethel to coax her to meet her were unsuccessful. I knew Letecia had admitted to false reporting and the fact that she had told a factually different account to responding deputies than what she had told to detectives. I learned Letecia had been communicating with her husband about coming to the office to speak with investigators during the time that she was being interviewed. I reasonably believed the device Letecia was using to communicate with Al may be the same cellular device in her possession. I also had reasonable belief that Letecia was likely the last person to have had contact with Gannon. I know cellular devices are commonly used to communicate with persons, access the internet, provide tracking data, contain map search results, and other sundry tasks that have value in an investigation. I knew of the difficulty in getting Letecia to come in for the interview, and that seizing the cellular device in her possession immediately was necessary to preserve digital evidence of her whereabouts and her communication with her husband in connection with this case. As I spoke with Letecia, I asked if the cell phone in her hand was her phone. She held the phone slightly away from her body, and I asked if I could see it. She extended her arm slightly, and I took hold of her phone. I began to pull the phone away from her, and she tightened her grip. I continued pulling the phone from her hand, and I told her I was seizing the device pending the application for a search warrant. This statement caused her to question the validity and legality of the seizure. Letecia asked if I would put my statement of the seizure on camera. I said I would. I stepped back into the interview room number 4, indicated we were back on camera, and I explained that I had seized the phone. I stepped back out into the hallway and provided Letecia's cellular phone to Detective Bethel. All right, guys, so those are all the documents we went over during episode 4. If you could hit the thumbs up on your way out and leave your thoughts in the comments down below. I'll talk to you all soon.